Ganyu, or more accurately, Ganyu, the latest 5-star cryo bow added to Genshin Impact and the #1 reason for Amber to spiral into crippling depression. Seriously, take Amber, some magic cryo dust, a goat, and bam, you've got Ganyu. With a base attack higher than even Tartaglia, and crit damage as an ascension stat, Ganyu's solidly positioned to take the helm of your team as a main DPS. Ganyu's standard attacks are just that, pretty standard. Ganyu's main shtick, the thing that makes her tick, besides overtime, is her charged attack. While most bow characters have a single charge level that imbues their arrows with their element, Ganyu goes even further beyond. Charge level 2, Cryo Boogaloo, causes Ganyu to fire off a Frost Flake arrow. Once these arrows hit a target, they bloom to deal extra AoE cryo damage. And damn, do these blooms hit hard. At base, these deal 217.6% AoE cryo damage, dealing bonus damage to Timmy's emotional state. Where are your friends now, Timmy? Unlocking Ganyu's first talent with Ascension 1 grants her Undivided Heart, giving her 20% crit rate on her Frost Flake arrows and blooms for 5 seconds after firing a Frost Flake arrow. It feeds itself. This encourages you to string together charged shots where possible, further cementing Ganyu's role as a main DPS. Next is Cryo Amber's Baron Bunny. With a single tap, Ganyu dashes backwards and leaves an Ice Lotus. This initial placement deals 132% AoE cryo damage, and the Ice Lotus inherits 120% of Ganyu's HP at base. Contrast this to Amber, who deals no damage when placing Baron Bunny, and its hit points being a measly 41% of Amber's HP, and you'll see why Amber's crying herself to sleep at night. The Ice Lotus lasts for 6 seconds or until it is destroyed, after which it will detonate for another 132% AoE cryo damage. With a cooldown of 10 seconds, you can theoretically have a taunt target on the field up to 60% of the time, but doing this interrupts Ganyu's pew pew, so it's fairly impractical. Use it whenever you remember to keep the energy flowing. Keeping the flower up as much as you can ensures that you don't have enemies constantly breathing down your neck, giving you the space to fire off those charged shots like no tomorrow. While it's not quite as flexible in its placement as Baron Bunny, it's pretty simple to use. Moving on to the final bit of Yangu's kit, Celestial Shower. Skipping all of the flowery descriptions, this sets up a large field for 15 seconds where shards of ice will fall, each dealing 70% AoE cryo damage. These shards fall about 3.3 times per second, meaning that this burst has a full damage potential of about 3,465% AoE damage. Granted, that's wildly optimistic and is far from guaranteed due to the slight RNG nature of the falling icicles. But, slight RNG nature. From what I've noticed, if there are about 5 enemies in the circle, each icicle is guaranteed to target an enemy. With fewer enemies, increasing numbers of icicles will target empty spaces, or spaces not directly above an enemy. For example, when casting this above a Regispine, you still get about roughly half of the icicles hitting on target. Combine the guaranteed targeting against mass enemies with some grouping skills from an Emo Traveler, Venti or Sucrose, and suddenly you're hitting multiple targets with each icicle for huge amounts of damage over the course of the burst. With Ganyu's second talent unlocked at 4th Ascension, party members in the field gain 20% cryo damage bonus. Either way, Ganyu should stay within the AoE of her burst to boost her damage while it's active. As per requirements, this burst has a 60 energy requirement and a 15-second cooldown, which makes it pretty middle of the road. With the basics of her kit covered, let's summarize Ganyu's Constellations real quick. Cryo res reduction and extra energy for Ganyu when landing her level 2 charge shots, an extra charge for Ganyu's skill, 3 talent levels for Ganyu's burst. Enemies in Ganyu's burst field take increased damage, 3 talent levels for Ganyu's skill, and using Ganyu's skill removes the charge time for 1 aimed shot. These add a bit of convenience and a small boost to Ganyu's damage contribution. There's nothing completely out of left field here like Zhongli suddenly healing with Constellation 6, so Ganyu performs pretty admirably even with 0 constellations. With that said, where does Ganyu fit into a team? Well, as mentioned near the start of the video, she's comfortably statted out to take the wheel and be the main DPS on the field once your team has thrown their skills out. Is it completely possible to make Ganyu a secondary DPS instead? It sure is, but you're missing out on sizable charged shot damage and ignoring her bonus crit rate to her charged shots from her first talent if all you're doing is throwing out Ganyu's skill and burst before swapping to another DPS. Ganyu can technically fill the sub DPS role, but if that's the case, I think you're better off just building Kaya unless you really like Ganyu's design. And boy does Mihoya rub her design in your face. The first time you meet her in her story quest, camera straight at her chest. Start gliding after falling a short distance, camera straight at her ass. Mihoyo's not subtle at all about this. Mona's quests come to mind, and Ganyu's definitely taken the hearts and wallets of quite a few, dare I say it, simps? You could use Ganyu as a support just for her burst's cryo damage bonus. FBI, open up! Okay, don't do that. Technically possible, but I'll judge you. Personally, I use Ganyu as a main DPS with some pyro enablers such as Xiangling and Bennett. There have been some attempts to use Ganyu as a cryo enabler for a pyro main DPS such as Klee or Diluc, but Ganyu ends up being the one triggering Melt, as her cryo application from her burst doesn't quite strip away pyro fast enough to reset the aura. All in all, there's quite a few artifact setups you can go for. Going for 2 Gladiators and 2 Blizzard Strayer piece bonuses benefits all of Ganyu's kit equally for consistently high damage. Going for the Wanderer's Troop 4-piece set bonus pivots Ganyu into a melt reaction role, while you'll want to set up Pyro with Xiangling's burst before melting everything, literally. You could also go for a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer setup. This will need a Hydro enabler on your team though, or you could just wait for it to rain. Stat-wise, go for attack percent on your Sands, cryo damage on your Goblet, and crit rate or damage on your Circlet, whichever you need more of, keeping in mind the 2-to-1 crit damage to crit rate ratio, as well as considering Ganyu's native crit bonuses. As for weapons, the Amos bow is almost custom fit to Ganyu due to its charge shot focus, so long as you can maintain distance from your targets. Otherwise, the Skyward Harp comes in second. As for 4-star bows, the prototype present does well as long as you can land your headshots, getting overtaken by the Blackcliff warbow if you can maintain those stacks. Overall, Ganyu is a DPS powerhouse. She focuses mainly on dumping damage with her charge shots, getting even better in co-op when there's other adventurers to take the heat, and apply pyro for chunky melt reactions. However, due to Ganyu's charge shot focus, it's hard to recommend her if you play on mobile or console. Genshin's controls on those platforms still leave a bit to be desired, but of course your mileage may vary. I think Ganyu's decently powerful, she's got big numbers and high base attack. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you pick her up, but as always there's always another cutie around the corner. Feel free to hold off and say for Hu Tao or Xiao, I'm not your boss. As always, thank you very much for watching until the end. Take it easy, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video.